Hello everyone and welcome back. I am the casting hydralist VP Nursky coming to you guys with more games from the IPL Season 2 qualifiers. Our first opponent spawning as a Yellow Terror in this matchup is going to be roxkisBratOK's BratOK. BratOK has had some pretty stellar success actually in the online tournament scene. More recently just won his first major LAN tournament in a city that sounds kind of looks like Berlin or something like that in Russia. Did win the equivalent of about 10,000 USD, so definitely finally starting to come on the scene and look pretty darn strong. His opponent for this matchup, spawning as the South as the Green Protoss, former team member of Evil Geniuses and Mim, is going to be Grubby. Grubby now more recently starting his own team actually, has SteelSeries sponsoring him, so Grubby definitely on the upswing. Has not had a lot of success in some of the earlier stages of Starcraft 2, but more recently did take first place at the Copenhagen Games, where he did pick off some extremely good players. So Grubby looking strong recently and expecting really good things out of him in the future. This is going to be on the map Xel'Naga Caverns. Do have BratOK putting down his first barracks on 12. Not taking any gas just yet, actually going up to 13 now. Has not taken any gas, so we'll see what he ends up doing. Might be going into some kind of a quick expander 2-rax build. Do have the first gateway on the way for Grubby. Just now we are getting a refinery added for BratOK. Do have the first scout on the way for Grubby as well. Grubby's going to want to get that probe into BratOK's base before BratOK does get out his first Marine. Always is extremely important for Protoss to get that in there before the first Marine pops out, because once the first Marine pops out, Protoss does have to play blind for a time. Looks like he's going to be doing a little bit of harass if he can. First scouting SCV is going to be heading out for BratOK at the same time. Wants to get a scout on Grubby. Terran can delay their scout just a little bit because that first Stalker really is the only thing that can deny scouting, and it won't be out for quite some time in the early stages of the game. Do have that first gateway finished for Grubby. Zealot on the way. Cybernetics Core on the way as well. Has taken one gas at this point in time. Do now finally have BratOK starting to do his build. Does have that first Marine out. Looks like he's going to be getting a pretty fast tech lab on that first barracks. So no factory play early on, even though he did take a somewhat delayed but quick first gas. We'll have to wait and see what he's actually going to do with that tech lab in just a moment. Looks like he's going to be just getting out a fast Marauder. No concussive shell on the way just yet. Back in Grubby's base, we still do have that SCV running around. Stalker is on the way. Warp Gate research is underway as well at this time. Zealot's going to try and get that SCV, but to no avail. SCV is going to easily get away. It's going to get out of there before that first Stalker pops out. Good timing by BratOK. Now we do have BratOK actually taking a rather fast expansion off of one barracks. Is adding a second barracks just now. Couple of Marauders out. Is going to be moving forward with that initial Marauder and Marine. Does not have concussive shell yet, mind you. Has not actually even started the research for concussive shell. Do have one forward pylon for Grubby that he did place on the map, so Grubby does have a little bit of scouting. That's mostly for drops. Do have a bunker going on. It's a very good decision by BratOK. Taking this aggressive expansion, it is a little bit harder to defend. Do have BratOK opting for Stim first, so that's kind of an interesting choice. Will not be getting his concussive shells right away. Rather, instead, is going to go for the fast Stim. Do have Grubby getting his first Nexus down. Actually, surprisingly, going one gateway into Nexus. I wonder if he actually saw the expansion of BratOK. No, he did not actually even see it. So, Grubby kind of just taking a little bit of a gamble right there and going for the very fast expansion in this game. BratOK does have that first bunker down, so he should be relatively safe, especially since it does look like Grubby is going to be just expanding. Meanwhile, back in the base of Grubby, we do have the second gas on the way. Do have two more gateways on the way as well. That expansion next is just about finished up. Stim about halfway done for BratOK. Is going to be adding a reactor to this, so opening up with two barracks. One with a tech lab, one with reactor. Is going to be getting out some Marines now. Both players playing kind of tentatively in the early stages of this game. Do even have an engineering bay now down for BratOK. +1 attack for his infantry units on the way. Taking his second gas now, so probably looking to tech up in the near future. Robotics facility on the way for Grubby. Undoubtedly he's going to be chrono boosting out his first observer so that he can get some view of what BratOK is up to. Always good to know what your opponent is up to. For Protoss, they really do need to be able to react a little bit to what Terran's doing. Do have Grubby poking forward a little bit with this Stalker. Going to easily shoo that away is BratOK. A little bit of damage to the shields, but no big deal. Do have 2 bunkers down now for BratOK, so BratOK should be relatively safe from any kind of early aggression in these stages of the game. BratOK now adding a factory. Be interesting to see if he actually builds any units out of that factory or if he will go for a starport. Currently still building quite a few Marines, a couple of Marauders still coming out. Still no concussive shell, instead opting for the Marine combat shield instead, so it does look like he is focusing on Marine based upgrades at the moment. Throwing a scan down is BratOK and get a good idea of exactly what Grubby is up to and his unit composition. Very good vision of the map though for Grubby at this point in time. Does have control of both Sunlight Towers, but we do have a force now moving out for BratOK. BratOK wants to try and get aggressive. Did see that Grubby didn't have a whole lot of units at his base, so BratOK's going to try and move forward here. Poke at that Stalker. Grubby is going to get that Stalker away. BratOK's just going to turn around for a minute. Looks like he just wants to take control of those Sunlight Towers in the early stages of the game. Going to be knocking down these destructible rocks. Wants to clear those out for a potential third later in the matchup. Do have an Immortal now on the way for Grubby. So going to be starting out with a heavy Gateway Immortal composition, not really rushing to those Colossus. Although we do have a Robotics Bay and a second Gateway going down, so Colossus will be on the way eventually. I do like the choice not to completely just rush for the Colossus. Getting on Immortal will help you deal with the Marauders pretty darn well. Buy you some time against the Marauder forces of BratOK, but BratOK still does not actually surprisingly have concussive shells. It's kind of an interesting choice by BratOK not to get the concussive shells, as they do typically play a pretty huge role in the matchups. Do have 1 Marauder running forward using Stim to pick off a Stalker over here on the edge. Do have another Marine actually managing to take out a probe that was trying to move to the Sunlight Tower. So BratOK does have map control at this point in time. Interesting enough, do have that Observer Grubby just hanging out by the base of BratOK, just barely avoiding all of these turrets that he does have down. Do have 3 barracks down now for BratOK. Just now added yet another tech lab. Do have a starport on the way, and it is going to be adding Vikings. Factory doing nothing right now. That Observer does get lost by Grubby. A little bit of an error by Grubby right there. So interestingly enough, Marine Marauders, Stim, no concussive shells. Not sure about that choice by BratOK. Is starting to add Vikings. Do not even have a single Colossus out on the field actually yet for Grubby though. Do say that currently he is still just on Gateway units and the Immortal. A little bit low on units though is Grubby, but that's not too big of a deal at this point in the game. Neither player really with a huge army, so to speak, as they were focusing more on economy early in the game. A little bit of a slow start to this game. Both players just trying to get their economic backbone up, not really trying to be too overly aggressive. Do have some more upgrades on the way for BratOK. We do see he is at 1-0, going up now to 1-1. Has his 2 attacks started as well. Has salvaged one of those bunkers, just leaving one behind just in case. Do have that Marine trying to kite away a Zealot. His forces are going to come up and easily pick off that Zealot. Another Observer on the way for Grubby. Another Zealot on the way for Grubby as well, trying to take control of these Sunlight Towers. Easily going to be able to clean up that Zealot is the forces of BratOK. BratOK does not have the concussive shell upgrade for those Marauders, so just got it a little bit delayed. Adding quite a few Vikings to his composition, surprisingly enough. Already has 2, adding 2 more. Grubby has added Colossus though, so BratOK probably reading Grubby's tendencies pretty well. Knows he will be going for that Colossus composition, as he is indeed doing. A lot of gateways getting added for Grubby, surprisingly. Adding 4 more gateways is going to take him up to 8 gateways. Just now putting down his 3rd Nexus. BratOK actually in a position where he might actually be able to deny that 3rd Nexus if he wanted to, but not being very aggressive at this point in the game. Does have a supply depot down here at what would be a potential 4th or 5th base for Grubby, so he will have spotting of that. Looks like BratOK now up to 5 Vikings, a couple of medevacs. Might be thinking of getting a little more aggressive now. Is going to poke forward, see if there is a 3rd up at the gold for Grubby. He's going to see if there is actually no base there, and just decides to back up for a moment. Do have that Observer doing a very good job of scouting the forces of BratOK and what they are doing. Quite a few gateway units now getting added to his composition for Grubby. Does have 2 Colossus, does have the Thermal Lance upgrade. No attack or armor upgrades just yet for Grubby, but he is getting ready to gear up to start doing a lot of upgrades, adding a second forge to his base. Third Nexus is just about to come online, will come online just now. Third base also built for BratOK, moving that out just now, adding a lot of barracks to his composition. We'll be going up now to 6 barracks. Still has 1 starport, not building anything out of the tech lab. Forces still kind of just moving around in the middle of the map. Here comes a probe to scout what BratOK is up to. We'll potentially see that BratOK is getting ready to gear up to take his third base at the gold. I do like that decision by BratOK. Will morph a planetary fortress there that will give him a strong forward position. Will also help protect his flank should he move out with his forces. A little bit of a slow start to this game so far. Probe transition going on now to the third of Grubby, but it does look like BratOK is finally ready to get aggressive here. Is going to be moving forward with his forces, moving those Vikings along the edge. Wants to be able to get them in a position to try and pick up the Colossus. BratOK's going to be easily killing off that Nexus. Force fields go down for Grubby. Grubby's going to be attacking into this. Those Vikings backing off, just trying to pick off the Colossus. Colossus are trying to be micro back. Bunch of Stalkers pulling back to try and pick off these Vikings, but the Vikings actually easily picking off the Colossus. Colossus actually not even doing any damage to the ground forces of BratOK. BratOK easily storming forward here as those Colossus were pulled away extremely quickly. Weren't involved in this fight whatsoever. BratOK now storming through the forces of Grubby. Grubby actually falling significantly behind. 145 to 96 supply of Grubby. Good force fields are down for Grubby though. He is managing to hold this for now, but what will happen when these force fields disperse? Grubby is going to back up and try and warp in some more units as we do have BratOK now moving forward with his units. Going to be picking off some pylons in the base of Grubby. Grubby now attacking back into him, even pulling some of his probes to try and deal with the forces of BratOK. BratOK looking so strong at this point though. Grubby might be able to clean this up, but at what cost is it going to hurt him? And Grubby is just going to GG out of the game, and Grubby will take Game 1 versus BratOK, and they will head to a Game 2. Very good decision there by BratOK. BratOK saw that Grubby was maybe a little bit out of position, did not have his third very well defended, even though that Grubby was scouting pretty well what the forces of BratOK were doing. Maybe a little bit of a mistake by Grubby. Microed back those Colossuses, didn't want to lose them to the Vikings of Grubby. Microed back his Colossuses, didn't want to lose them to the forces of BratOK. But the problem that he had is the Colossus really didn't end up participating in the fight, and as a result, the gateway units versus higher upgraded Marines and Marauders just were easily able to steamroll the gateway forces. Probably should have sacrificed the Colossus and just tried to get as much damage done with them as possible in that battle. But Grubby kind of made a mistake there, chose to just micro them back right away and try and save them, relying solely on his ground forces to try and hold the push, and ended up paying the price for it and losing Game 1, going down 1-0 to the forces of BratOK. We'll be heading into Game 2, so I will see you guys at that cast.